Hello readers by eyes and by ears, this is Mari-chan and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are continuing with the reading of Devil Venerable Also Wants to Know, or 魔尊也想知道 by Cyan Wings or 青色羽翼. We're covering chapters 33 through 36 today, so I hope you all enjoy. Chapter 33, A Deviation from the Plan. Wenren E wasn't angry. He had long since gotten used to the plot's habits. It was normal enough that reality, from time to time, needed to conform with the events of the original plot. He was twisting the story's events, trying to defy heaven and change fate, but the original fate still offered resistance. Under these circumstances, it was fully expected that the original story from time to time would manifest itself on some originally unrelated character. Then, do you feel loyalty toward Baili Qingmiao? Wenren E asked. It had suddenly occurred to him that Zhongli Qian was no longer the only choice. Tsong-sheen. Wenren E sized him up carefully. Aside from his sickly complexion, his looks weren't bad. With Tsong-sheen's condition, before he could freely control his sickness qi, anyone who dual cultivated with him would have died from his illnesses, and only ghost cultivators could be around him safely. That was why Wenren E had sent him to Hellfire Pavilion. It was possible that only the female lead would be immune to Tsong-sheen's sickness qi. Didn't that mean they were suited for each other? Wenren E looked pleasantly at the spare he had chosen for Baili Qingmiao. Tsong-sheen, feeling his expectant gaze, shook his head furiously and said, How could this subordinate is only loyal to the Venerable. Meaning that since Wenren E was Lord of Demons today, Tsong-sheen was loyal to Wenren E. If tomorrow Yanyan pulled off a coup, Tsong-sheen's loyalty to the Lord of Demons wouldn't waver. He had the same kind of loyalty as everyone else in Yuan's sect. Wenren E immediately lost interest and waved him off. Since you can't do anything to her, just leave Baili Qingmiao for now. Go cast the curse on Zhongli Qian. Tsong-sheen hurried off. He took a glance at Baili Qingmiao through the window of her room and shook his head slightly. Deep inside, he did want to help this girl, but the Venerable had given his orders. In the future, he could help her on some less important matter. Seeing his expression, Wenren E was greatly disappointed and shook his head. He can't even defy this Venerable's orders and save someone behind my back. Completely undependable. Altar Master Miao, just arriving. ... Did the Venerable consider defying his orders dependable? In that case, it made sense how Protector Shu had maintained her position. When it came to acting behind Wenren E's back, he, Miao Qiu-qing, really could not hold a candle. Altar Master Miao entered the room, blindfolded Baili Qingmiao again, fed the goo insect to her, and then left to go put it in Jong-lee Qian. Throughout the whole process of being cursed by Tsong-sheen and having a parasite placed in him by Altar Master Miao, Jong-lee Qian had been awake and aware that they'd done something concerning to him. He wasn't afraid, though, and in fact relaxed a little. He'd been anxious Wenren E would use him against the Zhongli clan, or use his reputation in the mortal world to lead scholars astray and set up an evil cult so as to increase his own power. Neither of those things had happened by now. Zhongli Qian was widely read and had more practical knowledge than Baili Qingmiao. When the drops of blood were placed into his eyes, he recognized it as a curse for tracking the person the blood belonged to, not something that would affect his consciousness at all. When Altar Master Miao forced him to swallow the goo insect, he recognized it as the heart-linking parasite, which could link two people's emotions. It was a type of love goo, often used by Miao women to know their husband's feelings. It was said that the Miao had created the heart-linking parasite because Miao women discovered that even though their husbands would fall in love with them under the influence of a love parasite, it wouldn't stop them from sleeping around. Some men made a distinction between love and lust and could love one woman and be in bed with another at the same time, then act like he didn't know her afterward. In order to completely control their husbands, Miao women had created the heart-linking parasite so that the moment he felt desire for another woman, she would know. Zhongli Qian recognized that this parasite would also not affect his consciousness. They were not subject to the queen parasite, and though they were influenced by each other, it was two-way. If one's will was strong, one could avoid being influenced by the other party and could even suppress the other's emotions. Sir Wenren should be aware that these two things cannot control me. So what is his purpose? Could he possibly want me to track someone for him? Zhongli Qian asked. I have no particular skills in tracking. He could have found an expert instead of me. Zhongli Qian was sharp and had been considering Wenren E's plans and intentions for these past months. During his time at the Hellfire Pavilion, he had played out multiple chess games against himself, thinking of countless possibilities, but they were all proven wrong at this point. The Venerable's decisions are profound, and we couldn't possibly guess at them, said Altar Master Shi. Young Master Zhongli should just obey his orders. Altar Master Miao, having more seniority than Altar Master Shi, knew a bit more. He was aware that Baili Qingmiao was Wenren E's favorite disciple, who had been stolen by Qingmiao. He also knew what the heart-linking parasite did, and he had just heard Wenren E call Altar Master Shi undependable. Putting the pieces together, he figured the Venerable was intending to use Zhongli Qian to dispose of Tsong-shoo-eh, so he could take back his disciple. No. Obviously, he wouldn't tell his conjecture to Zhongli Qian, and left right after completing his task. He had already told Wenren E how to remove the heart-linking parasites, so now he could leave everything else to Wenren E. After the two altar masters left, Baili Qingmiao struggled out of her ropes. She snuck out of the room, looking carefully around and seeing nobody in the area. Instead of escaping, she went deeper into the compound in search of Master Qingxue. Baili Qingmiao wasn't an idiot. The two people who had come to her cell were much higher level than her, so there was no way a mere nascent soul stage could have escaped on their own. They had to have some scheme and were planning for her to escape. Instead of running face first into a trap, better she go find her master. Master Qingxue was a wandering immortal, and with her, Baili Qingmiao would have a much better chance of escape. Wenren E had expected Baili Qingmiao to make a break for the exit. There was an illusion array set outside, and if she went that way, she would run into a phantom wall that would lead her to Zhongli Qian's room no matter which way she walked. Somehow, she had outsmarted him. Odd. Was Baili Qingmiao this perceptive? Wenren E frowned, feeling that something somewhere had deviated from his plan. If Baili Qingmiao went toward the exit, she would be led smoothly to Zhongli Qian. But she was heading deeper into the Hellfire Pavilion, which was crawling with ghost cultivators. She'd only taken a few steps when she heard the sound of sobbing. She hurried over and found someone in a red robe and loose hair, crouching in the corner of a room and weeping pitifully. Baili Qingmiao walked over and placed a hand gently on the person's shoulder, asking, "Miss, were you captured too?" The red-robed person continued to sob, her whole body trembling, as if they had their heart broken. Baili Qingmiao felt sympathy, wondering what awful thing could have happened to this maiden, and even more anxious about Master Qingxue. They chose me for him. Why me? The red-robed person sobbed. There were so many others who wanted to get closer to Altar Master Zhen. They could have gone. I didn't want to. What did they make you do? Baili Qingmiao asked carefully, worried about digging up any trauma. They made me. The person cried so hard they couldn't speak. Slowly, they turned around and lifted their head. They said I was the ugliest, so they made me go kiss Altar Master Zhen. Ah! Baili Qingmiao couldn't help but let out a yelp when she saw the other's face. The eyeballs were dangling from their sockets, the flesh was rotting off, and the tongue had maggots crawling around in it. Most importantly, this person seemed to be a man. The red-robed person grabbed Baili Qingmiao by the arm and crawled toward her. He pointed at his face. I wasn't really willing to be with Altar Master Zhen, but he insulted me and said I got bugs on him. Look at my cute babies. Do you think they're ugly? See how chubby they are. They're lovely. Get away from me. Baili Qingmiao shoved him away with her spiritual energy. Despite using the full strength of a nascent soul cultivator, she only managed to toss him back half a meter. The moonlit frost silk twisted wildly in the air in fear. When coming into contact with one of the red-robed man's bugs, it shuddered and flung it off. Baili Qingmiao ran away as the red-robed man staggered after her, shouting, "How come Altar Master Shi and Altar Master Zhen think I'm ugly? Things were better when Altar Master Chu was here. Altar Master Chu liked me and often praised me. I miss her so much. Why do you smell like Altar Master Chu? Wait up! Don't run away!" Baili Qingmiao didn't know Altar Master Shi and Chu, but she did feel bad for Altar Master Zhen. She ran with all her might, her heart in her throat, but was unable to shake the red-robed man. It was less that she couldn't fight him, and more that she didn't want to. On the verge of desperation, she saw out of her left eye light streaming out from a room. She rushed in, locking the door behind her. A hand on her heart, she held her breath, hoping the other person wouldn't find her. The red-robed man stood outside the door and cocked his head at it for a moment. Sobbing a few times, he said, "This room is for Altar Master Shi's guest. I'm not allowed to disturb him, so I'll go now." He staggered off miserably, missing Altar Master Chu. Hearing his footsteps grow fainter, Baili Qingmiao patted her chest, her fear finally fading. She glanced around the room, but her left eye instantly landed on a white-robed young man with a book in his hand. He was also looking at her, and her left eye locked gazes with him, unable to be moved away. Zhongli Qian. ... Earlier, his heart had been racing in a kind of terror that he hadn't felt for a long time, which he knew was the work of the heart-linking parasite. He was trying to calm his emotions when a girl barged into his room. At that moment, Zhongli Qian could not tear his eyes away from her. Her image seemed to be glued to the front of his eyeballs. Her face felt like it was burned into his sight. Her body let off rays of light, which soon made his eyes ache, yet he couldn't look away. Zhongli Qian, with Baili Qingmiao's face filling his mind, wondered what kind of new torture method this was. Baili Qingmiao was doing a bit better. Her left eye couldn't see anything but Zhongli Qian's face, but she could move her right eye to check her surroundings. However, it was too uncomfortable to look at different things with both eyes, causing overlapping images to appear in her vision. When Zhongli Qian moved, Baili Qingmiao became so nauseous she nearly vomited. Thinking there was nothing to do but cover his eyes, Zhongli Qian took out a piece of cloth and tied it over them. As a cultivator, he could use his spiritual cognition to sense his surroundings, so being blinded wouldn't really bother him. His actions reminded Baili Qingmiao, who tore off a strip from one of her sleeves and tied it over her left eye, so that she could see only out of the right. She instantly felt much better. With her right eye, she could see Zhongli Qian properly, and found he was an upstanding young man. Seeing him move, she pressed her back against the wall, the moonlit frost silk twirling wildly in the air before her. "Don't move!" she cried. "Stay like that! Don't bring any bugs near me!" Feeling her fear, Zhongli Qian began reciting poetry in his mind, trying to calm down both himself and Baili Qingmiao. "Miss, relax," he said with a slight smile. "This is my true form. I'm not going to transform into anything. This one's name is Zhongli Qian. May I have your name?" Zhongli Qian of the Zhongli clan? Baili Qingmiao did have some general knowledge of the cultivation world. Discovering she was now calm, she asked, "Are you also being imprisoned here?" "Pretty much." Zhongli Qian's level-headed attitude helped Baili Qingmiao relax quite a bit. Retrieving her bonded weapon, she greeted him respectfully. "I am Baili Qingmiao of Shangqing sect. While traveling with my master, we passed by Ghost Peak and were captured. I don't know where my master has ended up, so I'm currently searching for her. Does young Master Zhongli know what this place is?" "The Hellfire Pavilion in Xuanyuan sect," Zhongli Qian answered. His doubts returned. Why would Wenren bind him to this ordinary righteous disciple who seemed to have no idea what was going on? Xuanyuan sect?" Baili Qingmiao said, now even more puzzled. When she had encountered Wenren before, he was a good seer to her, and he and Master Qingxue had also met. He wouldn't hurt them, would he? Perhaps something had happened to Wenren and the leadership of Xuanyuan sect now rested with someone else? No, there was also the possibility of people in Hellfire Pavilion acting on their own. Baili Qingmiao took out the token Wenren had given her from her storage belt. She had originally planned to never use it, but for the sake of her master, it was worth a shot. Wenren observing in secret, winced when he saw it. He couldn't let Baili Qingmiao use it to summon him. If he was there, how could Baili Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian have their private first meeting? Yeen Hanjiang, seeing the awkward look on his Venerable's face, put the ghost mask on. His bearing changed in an instant. He entered the room in a streak of shadow and snatched the token out of Baili Qingmiao's hand. "Who are you?" Baili Qingmiao cried, backing up against Zhongli Qian. They could sense Yeen Hanjiang's power, and through their linked emotions, they made a decision to fight him together. The masked man ran a finger over the diagram of Polis on the token. In a deep voice he said, "You're not worthy of this." While wearing the ghost mask, Yeen Hanjiang didn't need to hide his emotions. He had been suppressing his emotions over the last few days, and only now, under the mask, could he let them show on his face. For the first time in days, he relaxed a bit. He looked sullenly at Baili Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian, thinking back to that phrase, "Love takes you unawares," and before you know it, you're deep in his clutches. A pang shot in his heart. Were it not for these two, he would never have realized the intentions of his own heart, and he wouldn't have to bear this kind of agony. Wouldn't it have been better if he'd never known? Yeen Hanjiang carefully placed the token in the lapel of his robes, near his heart. Without harming either of them, he left and returned to Wenren side. He took off the mask, revealing his usual expression of quiet devotion. Chapter 34. High Spirits. Venerable, Yeen Hanjiang offered the token to Wenren with both hands. Wenren He had given this token to Baili Qingmiao in exchange for the shattered mountain meteorite. Both the workings of karma and Wenren own character would not allow him to simply take it back. He had felt a bit nervous when Baili Qingmiao first took it out, but if she actually used it, then he would have stepped in. If he escorted the two out of the Hellfire Pavilion, they would part ways outside, and all his work would have been for nothing. This was also the first time Yeen Hanjiang had taken initiative without Wenren orders. Just seeing his troubled expression, he had rushed in, still doing his best to ease Wenren job for him. After he put on the mask, he seemed to become a completely different person. Forget Baili Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian. Even Wenren himself hardly recognized him. No wonder why neither the characters nor the readers had figured out, right up until Baili Qingmiao had seen the mask in his bag, that the ghost mask was actually the faithful and deferent Yeen Hanjiang. Speaking of that, Wenren guessed that Yeen Hanjiang had purposefully let Baili Qingmiao see that mask. He had probably wanted her to fall into despair and give up on survival. Unfortunately, it hadn't worked. "This Venerable cannot take back a token he has given out," Wenren said. "You can keep it. I'll just give her a messaging talisman in the future. A faint smile appeared on Hanjiang's face. He replaced the token securely near his heart. Wenren felt like if he didn't stop him, Hanjiang would try to shove it into his own chest. It was just a little token that he made out of the leftover material the 7-killing halberd was made from. It wasn't actually good for much. Its only use was that if someone sent their own spiritual energy into it, Wenren would be able to sense it. Oh well, if Hanjiang liked it, he could have it. Seeing Hanjiang act so meek, Wenren was puzzled. When he completed the army-crushing sword, Hanjiang should have already cleared his psychological blocks and stopped restricting himself. How come he seemed to have regressed? Was it because of the ghost mask? Let me see the mask. Wenren held out a hand. Hanjiang didn't offer it, instead clutching it tighter in his hand. Wenren reached out and casually grabbed it, but felt some resistance. Only when he yanked harder the second time did Hanjiang release it. He examined it closely, but found it to be an ordinary mask from the mortal world, made from ordinary materials. Hanjiang might have picked it up on a whim from a shop in the little border town. It shouldn't have any ability to influence a person's mind. Why wasn't Hanjiang willing to let him have it? Wenren stuck it on his own face. Through it, he saw a faint tinge of red color Hanjiang's face as he showed an expression Wenren had never seen before. He quickly took it off, but saw that Hanjiang's expression had returned to normal, looking as calm and unperturbed as always. Wenren wondered if he was seeing things. He turned the mask back and forth in his hand, but couldn't discover a trick to it. "Give me your hand," he ordered. Hanjiang extended a hand to Wenren. Wenren felt his pulse, then sent his own spiritual energy into Hanjiang's body. His meridians were unobstructed, and there was no problem with his cultivation. He showed no signs of chi deviation. Wenren withdrew his hand, letting it rest on the mask. He still felt puzzled. Ever since he had picked up that first book, many questions had arisen in his mind, and when he answered one, another appeared. Maybe this was just fate. Maybe he would never be able to fully understand everything. "Does the Venerable like this mask?" Hanjiang asked, seeing how Wenren had held onto it for all this time. "Not really." Wenren gave it back to Hanjiang, watching as he replaced it in his storage pouch, his face still expressionless. Something just wasn't right, yet he couldn't put his finger on it. Wenren trusted that Hanjiang wouldn't lie to him or conceal anything from him. They had already confided in each other and always acted openly toward each other. How come when Hanjiang put on the mask, Wenren was completely unable to read him? "From now on, if it's just you and me, don't wear that mask," Wenren said. "And don't wear it when it's not necessary either." "Understood," Hanjiang answered, very lightly. He showed none of the resolution he had in the past. Wenren wanted to keep interrogating Hanjiang about the mask, but Baili Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian had started holding hands, so Wenren had to turn his attention over to the developments on their side. They were holding hands because Zhongli Qian had stumbled and nearly fell, so Baili Qingmiao reached out and grabbed him. "Young Master Zhong-lee," she said, "you can't see anything, so let's help each other out right now." Zhongli Qian shook his head. "I think it's odd. Even if I can't see, with my spiritual cognition, I should be able to sense everything around me. How come I didn't notice whatever I tripped on? Miss Baili, can you check what it was for me?" Baili Qingmiao glanced back. "It's a femur. It's been rolling around by itself, trying to trip you up." Zhongli Qian released Baili Qingmiao's hand. "Miss Baili, why don't you use your bonded weapon to tie our hands together? Men and women shouldn't touch casually. I do not wish to be improper with you." He wasn't usually that stiff, but he was nervous about the fact that his eyes had been cursed to only see Baili Qingmiao. He trusted that Baili Qingmiao was a member of a righteous sect and had good character, and wasn't afraid of her harming him. But a person like her could easily be manipulated, so better he play it safe. Baili Qingmiao didn't mind and thought this idea was better. This way, if Zhongli Qian were to fall or be thrown by something, she could just loosen the silk and not be dragged along with him. Then, after getting better footing, she could pull him back using it. Thus, they swapped from holding hands to holding a silk tied between them. Baili Qingmiao looked like a guide for the blind. Wenren E. ... This wasn't what he had expected to happen. He had accomplished picking the other person instantly out of a crowd and sharing their emotions. So how come they were still so stiff and polite with each other? He hadn't expected them to blindfold their eyes. Was it really because he couldn't understand the last line? Love takes you unawares, and before you know it, you're deep in his clutches? But what kind of feeling was that referring to exactly? What does love takes you unawares, and before you know it, you're deep in his clutches mean? Wenren E asked. When you realize it's happening, it's already too late to break free, Hanjiang replied behind him. His voice shook slightly. He probably also thought this line was rather silly. I know what it means literally, Wenren E said, but how is it supposed to be accomplished? Cultivators cultivate their minds. How can anyone be so oblivious of their own intentions that they cannot discover them until they're in too deep? If someone is really so confused, then how can they cultivate? How can they enlighten to the Tao? Enlightenment happens in a flash. It never comes before you realize it's happening. Who knows? Hanjiang's tone was a bit cold. Probably only the people deep in his clutches can understand it. Then what was he supposed to do? Wenren E was aware that it wouldn't be easy to make Baili Qingmiao forget about her Wenzhao. He didn't try to control Baili Qingmiao either. But wasn't it natural for Zhongli Qian to fall in love with the female lead? Why didn't he feel anything? The Lord of Demons knew far too little about matters of love. He could only reference the original book. He opened abusive romance, wanting to revisit every word and action of Baili Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian's meeting, but the words on the page were currently changing madly. Wenren E could only read through it once before it was revised to something completely different. Baili Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian supported each other as they tried to escape the Hellfire Pavilion, with only one eye between them. The sun had set by now, and Baili Qingmiao was afraid to run into someone like the red-robed man again, so struck up conversation with Zhongli Qian. I don't know who captured me. My master is a really powerful, wandering immortal, and we were walking together when it happened. My vision suddenly went black and I lost consciousness. When I woke up, my master was gone, and I was trapped in here. Some sickly but still good-looking man put a drop of blood in my left eye, and also extracted some of my blood. A bit later, a pretty and delicate-looking man made me eat something that made my chest hurt for a moment. I have no idea what they did to me. Hearing all this, Zhongli Qian pursed his lips. Why only your left eye? I don't know. It looked like he was planning to do both, but when he got to my right eye, he suddenly had a fit of coughing and couldn't manage it. Maybe his sickness flared up? That man was the master of the Hellfire Pavilion of Xinye sect, Tsong-sheen. He cultivates the 7 human sufferings, and in order to inflict suffering on others, he must first inflict it on himself. He's always sickly, and couldn't possibly have a sudden flare-up. He is a walking illness. Baili Qingmiao suddenly turned her head, looking at Zhongli Qian closely with her right eye. She squinted a little and rubbed her chest. Strange. Why do I suddenly feel so suspicious of you? Zhongli Qian. ... That would be because he was suspecting Baili Qingmiao, and under the influence of the heart-linking parasites, she felt it too. Zhongli Qian had held out hopes that only the tracking spell on their eyes would be linked, and the heart-linking parasite would be for someone else. Now that she had shared his emotions, his hopes fell. With the heart-linking parasite, one could not hide any of their emotions. He and Baili Qingmiao had to cooperate, or they would never escape the Hellfire Pavilion. Zhongli Qian originally hadn't planned to resist, but Wenren E's recent actions made him wary. He was the heir to the Zhongli clan. If, in the future, there was a possibility he would do something wrong under the influence of the heart-linking parasite, then it was better he give up his position now and become a wandering cultivator. Miss Baili, let me undo your silk and conceal myself somewhere. Then take off the cloth over your left eye and look for me. I want to confirm how strong the curse is, Qian said. Only after obtaining all relevant information could they determine their next steps. Baili Qingmiao readily agreed. She also wanted to know how bad her eye was. After Zhongli Qian hid, she took off her blindfold and saw a thin thread with her left eye. She followed it, turning around, and saw Zhongli Qian through a door. Her vision could even penetrate through solid surfaces. I can see you, young Master Zhongli, Baili Qingmiao said. When Zhongli Qian opened the door and walked out, Baili Qingmiao's vision was filled with his face again. She quickly covered her eye up and described what she had just seen. This tracking curse truly is strong, Zhongli Qian said with a sigh. Even if the one whose blood was taken runs to the ends of the earth, they won't be able to escape the other side. Distance has no effect on it. So the blood in my eyes was young Master Zhongli's? Then who got my blood? Me, Zhongli Qian said, knowing that he couldn't hide it from Baili Qingmiao. I had to blindfold my eyes because my eyes can only see Miss Baili's face. There's basically no difference between having these eyes and not. Baili Qingmiao knew the sensation and felt sympathy for him. She at the very least had one working eye, while Zhongli Qian couldn't use either. Zhongli Qian could feel Baili Qingmiao's pity inside. Miss Baili, we have to test one more thing. Try to think of something that makes you really emotional. Baili Qingmiao's thoughts immediately turned to Wenzhao, and her heart sank. She remembered that her Shuxiong was to marry Liu Xinye today, and they might be in the bed together by now. It was so painful. She wasn't actually sad at all? Baili Qingmiao rubbed her chest. One moment, it had felt like a knife had been stuck into her heart and was being twisted, and the next moment, it was gone. Try thinking of something happy now, Zhongli Qian said. Baili Qingmiao thought of growing up together with Shuxiong and how well Shuxiong had treated her. It made her so happy. No, she wasn't happy at all. Her heart was as calm as still water. Miss Baili, the things you just thought of were what make you most sad and most happy, right? Zhongli Qian asked. Yes, Baili Qingmiao said firmly. I love Shuxiong. He's the one who can stir my feelings the most. That puts me at ease, Zhongli Qian said. What we both swallowed was the heart-linking parasite. Both parties who have it can feel each other's emotions and be controlled by the other. The one with the firmer will would be in control. So you suppressed my feelings just now? Yes. Zhongli Qian smiled in relief. When I felt your sorrow, I stilled my heart and was able to suppress it quickly. When I felt your joy, I was also able to suppress it. I'm new to it now, but after getting some practice, I should be able to steady my emotions easily. Baili Qingmiao. ... Didn't this mean that she was the one being controlled? Young Master Zhongli might be relieved, but what about her? Baili Qingmiao didn't know how to feel about this. You also don't need to worry, Zhongli Qian said. I'll do my best to find a way to rid us of the curse and the bugs. What I was just testing was how badly we're going to be affected for now. We can temporarily cover our eyes. It may be a bother, but not much of one. As for our emotions, I'll do my best to maintain a calm state of mind. I know this must be inconvenient for you, but it's all we can do for now. We just have to stay calm and act rationally. It's at least better than being ruled by emotions. No, I'm fine with this. Baili Qingmiao shook her head with a relieved expression. She smiled at Zhongli Qian. My Shuxiong is getting married today. Zhongli Qian's expression stiffened. He felt Baili Qingmiao's grief and smoothly recited a few poems in his mind. Stars hang over the broad plains. The moon's reflection ripples in river waters. Really quick footnote, that is coming from the poem Thoughts on a Traveling Night by Du Fu. Savor the joys of life. Do not raise to the moon an empty goblet. Second footnote, this is coming from Li Bai's poem Invitation to Wine, or Enter the Wine. The verses raised his spirits greatly. Baili Qingmiao also felt the same. Her mood suddenly changed from that of a resentful young girl's. With your help, I can let go of Shishong and no longer agonize over him, so that could be a blessing in disguise. From now on, I can travel the world, seeing all the sights it has to offer, and put my efforts toward ascending and becoming a god. Her laughter was bright and open, and Zhongli Qian couldn't help but feel her optimism. Wenren E. ... Wasn't this kind of development still good? Chapter 35. Truth Revealed. Zhongli Qian was afraid if he kept reciting poems, the girl in front of him might swear brotherhood and sisterhood with him. He quickly switched to, picking a chrysanthemum under the fence, I look leisurely toward the southern mountains, and some other poetry of the type. Seeing Baili Qingmiao go from spirited to relaxed and carefree, he realized what was going on and had to chuckle to himself. Footnote number 1, that poem line he just quoted is coming from Drinking Wine by Tao Yuanming. Back to the reading. What is it, young Master Zhongli? Baili Qingmiao said, sensing Zhongli Qian's mood. I just thought of something that made me realize I was wrong, Zhongli Qian said with a self-depreciating smile. I was afraid my emotions would be influenced by you and I would act out of order, so forcibly suppress those emotions. But it's not that my will was stronger than yours, but that Miss Baili is more considerate than I. When our emotions influence each other, you don't immediately try to change your feelings to suppress mine, but instead go along with me. If we were to struggle against each other, we might both lose control of ourselves and suffer chi deviation. Baili Qingmiao felt self-conscious and waved her hands. It's not that. It's just that I feel like I can't be miserable and blaming myself all the time. You're actually doing me a big favor. Then let's make a deal, said Zhongli Qian. Until we get rid of these parasites, if either of us gets overly emotional, the other should help them calm down, not influencing them with other emotions, just allowing them to calm down and gain perspective. That sounds good, Baili Qingmiao said, cupping her fists to him. The rumors don't do you justice. I often heard rumors about the Zhongli clan at Shangqing sect. I feel ashamed to say that, since most sects seclude themselves from the mortal world, they have some prejudice toward cultivation clans who intermingle with ordinary society, and some even accuse them of only seeking status and prestige. Meeting young Master Zhongli today, I have understood the meaning of nobility. You're overstating, Zhongli Qian said quietly. It's not easy to live this way. Since I can't hide my feelings from you, I might as well confess that I also want to gallop around on a horse, indulging in wine and doing whatever I please. I wish I didn't have to force myself to save someone I didn't even like for the sake of the Zhongli clan's heritage and reputation. Zhongli Qian's responsibilities were the source of his strength, but also fetters for him. He didn't even know if it would be better to let go or continue bearing them. The two wandered in circles throughout the Hellfire Pavilion several times, running into a few ghost cultivators Wenren E had created to scare them. Wenren E was still holding onto the hope that being in danger would reveal their true feelings and spark something between them. But as the two became closer together, they treated each other more like siblings, no spark of romance between them. Instead, Zhongli Qian became more vigilant. After they repelled another wave of ghost cultivators, Zhongli Qian stood in place, bamboo scroll in hand, and looked up to the stars in the sky. Venus shone bright, heralding the coming of dawn. He slapped the scroll against the palm of his hand. I get it now. Get what? Baili Qingmiao said, cocking her head. Zhongli Qian put away the scroll and said in the distance, Sir Wenren, I still have not developed any feelings for Miss Baili. There's no point in dragging this out any further. Why don't you reveal yourself to us? Wenren stared blankly. It wouldn't be hard for Zhongli Qian to guess that everything was part of his plan, but how did he realize that he intended for Zhongli Qian and Baili Qingmiao to fall in love? He appeared before the two with Yeen Hanjiang, saying coldly, "How did you figure out?" Senior Wenren, I'm so glad you're okay, Baili Qingmiao said, her face lighting up with joy. I thought something had happened at Xuanyuan sect and the man in the mask harmed you. No one can harm the Venerable, Yeen Hanjiang said in a frosty tone. The masked man naturally wouldn't harm Sir Wenren because the masked man is sect leader Yeen, said Zhongli Qian. Smart one. Wenren finally sized up Zhongli Qian properly. The third love interest was far more perceptive than he had expected. With that kind of foresight, how did he fall for Baili Qingmiao in the original book? The way Zhongli Qian had guessed that Wenren was trying to matchmake him and Baili Qingmiao was simple. While wandering around the Hellfire Pavilion with Baili Qingmiao, he had asked about her meetings with Wenren in detail and learned about their 3 encounters in the 1,000-mile ice plains after Miss Shu's death and at the Golden Coast Cliffs. Baili Qingmiao wasn't a very shrewd person and trusted Zhongli Qian by now, so told him every detail. Cultivators had strong memories, and under Zhongli Qian's directed questioning, she relayed everything accurately. Going by Baili Qingmiao's descriptions, Zhongli Qian determined that Miss Shu Lian was actually the right protector whom he had met once, Shu Yanyan. Since Wenzhao was an anchor to the spirit-severing array, Wenren had ordered her to seduce him many years in advance. Thus, he could break the spirit-severing array with no difficulty, yet purposefully drag things out for 10 years, until cultivators on both sides were too weak to make use of natural spiritual energy. As Qian admires what Sir Wenren has done for all human lives, it was difficult to attribute malice to your intentions. I could only consider what was most logical. Without any subtlety for Baili Qingmiao's sake, Zhongli Qian explained his conjectures to everyone. Baili Qingmiao was dumbstruck, seemingly shaken to her core. Senior Wenren, was Miss Shu really the Xuanyuan sect right protector? She's not dead? Baili Qingmiao grabbed Wenren's sleeve without thinking, gazing up at him with her right eye. This Venerable can summon her right now, said Wenren. A searing glare landed on Baili Qingmiao's hand. Wenren didn't look toward where it had come from, just casually pulled his sleeve out of her grasp. After he was no longer in contact with her, Yeen Hanjiang's glare vanished. Did Yeen Hanjiang bear hostility toward Baili Qingmiao? But Wenren had already explained part of the plot of abusive romance to him, as well as Baili Qingmiao's relationship to him as half his master. Yeen Hanjiang shouldn't be misunderstanding like he had in the book, so why was he acting this way? After some thought, Wenren couldn't figure it out, and didn't want to discuss it in front of Zhongli Qian either. He could only set aside his doubts for now and send Shu Yanyan a message talisman, ordering her to come immediately to the Hellfire Pavilion. In the 3 times Sir Wenren and Miss Baili have met, though the methods were harsh, I have noticed an intention to guide her, Zhongli Qian said. Miss Baili has good aptitudes, and it's my conjecture that Sir Wenren felt the desire to mentor her, subsequently becoming frustrated with how her heart was stuck on Wenzhao after watching Wenzhao involve himself with Miss Shu and Liu Shimei at the same time professing love for her at every turn. He smiled faintly. Plus, you put the heart-linking parasite inside us. The heart-linking parasite is often used by Miao women to know the feelings of their husbands. Putting all these points together, it's not hard to guess that Sir Wenren wishes to use me to help Baili Qingmiao escape the turmoils of her love. His explanation led everyone to see him in a new light. Zhongli Qian had been an outsider to the situation, with all his information coming from Baili Qingmiao, who was not a particularly self-aware person. With his information so limited, he managed to see through a situation that even Shu Yanyan and the other members of the Xuanyuan sect still hadn't figured out, which was undoubtedly impressive. How did you know I was the masked man? Yeen Hanjiang took out the mask and put it on. Baili Qingmiao involuntarily shuddered upon seeing it. The mask filled her with dread from a place deep within her. Don't be scared, Zhongli Qian said comfortingly to Baili Qingmiao. Secretary Yeen's disguise is very good, but he said one thing that exposed him, that we weren't worthy of Sir Wenwen's token. This is something that would be said by one with a great deal of veneration toward him. In that case, the masked man couldn't have harmed Sir Wenren. Additionally, since the masked man holds him in such respect, if something had happened to him, the masked man wouldn't be bothering with us. Therefore, Sir Wenren must have been safe and sound. Of the members of Xuanyuan's sect that I've met these past few days, only Secretary Yeen met the qualifications, so I made a guess. I was simply fortunate that it turned out to be right. Venus shone above Zhongli Qian's head, the only light remaining in the night sky. He had a slight smile that put people at ease, and truly fit the expression of a gentleman being unparalleled in the world. Really quick footnote on Venus. It has associations with wisdom in Chinese culture. Going back to the reading. Wenren clapped 3 times, saying appreciatively, Zhongli Qian fits his reputation of a prodigy. And he also fit his role as a major love interest. Only someone like him was worthy of ranking as 3rd love interest, directly below Wenren E. Sir Wenren is overstating, Zhongli Qian said evenly. There's just one thing that I don't understand. Why did Sir Wenren believe Baili Qingmiao and I would develop feelings? Baili Qingmiao has a kind nature and I admire her greatly, but to fall for her isn't such a light matter. This Venerable also doesn't understand, and was hoping young Master Jong-lee could explain, Wenren E said. Zhongli Qian raised his eyebrows, his doubt showing even through his blindfold as he waited for Wenren E to elaborate. Wenren E considered his wording for a moment, then said, This Venerable has glimpsed the workings of heaven, and seen that young Master Zhongli and Baili Qingmiao might have a fated connection. Can you clarify? I would like to know under what conditions I fall for Miss Baili, said Zhongli Qian. As their exchange went speedily back and forth, Baili Qingmiao looked between the two of them, her head spinning. They were talking about her, but their wording was carefully chosen to avoid putting her on the spot. Baili Qingmiao looked at Zhongli Qian, wondering how he could have fallen in love. He was such a level-headed person, not obsessive like her. Before she could wonder more, Wenren E knocked her unconscious in one strike. Abusive Romance's revision was written from Baili Qingmiao's perspective. Wenren E didn't want the fact that he had obtained the book to show up in the story, so had to resort to crude methods. According to fate, you would have attended her Wenzhao's wedding and discovered Baili Qingmiao imprisoned in the back mountains. Pitying her, you helped her escape. On your next meeting, seeing that she was entangled helplessly in love, you helped her again. As this went on, you came to love her, eventually promising to abandon the Zhongli clan to travel the world with her. This Venerable also wants to know why. Zhongli Qian had never heard of anyone being able to divine fate with such specificity, as if they'd seen it with their own eyes. If anyone else had told this to him, he wouldn't have believed them. But Wenren E wasn't someone who would make up such a wild story. Seeing how serious he was, Zhongli Qian fell into deep thought. He thought until Venus faded from the sky and faint sunlight illuminated Ghost Peak, then said abruptly, Since it never happened, it's difficult to guess my thoughts at the time. After considering it carefully and imagining the circumstances Wenren E has proposed, I've come up with an explanation which I can deeply sympathize with. What? Zhongli Qian said with a bitter smile. I should not say this, but the relationship between He Wenzhao and Baili Qingmiao is a lot like the relationship between Zhongli clan and me. They can both be considered our shackles. I carry the fortunes of the Zhongli clan and must obey its principles in every word and action. I cannot slip up for even a moment, cannot act for my own sake and defy the Zhongli clan's traditions. Miss Baili is bound by a cruel fate, wanting to break free from He Wenzhao, yet infatuated with him. I am shackled by my clan, and she by her heart. If the fate you described is true, then there is only one reason I would abandon the Zhongli clan. Not loving Miss Baili, but wanting to draw courage from her. If she would abandon her feelings, then maybe I could live for myself. I see. Wenren said. Zhongli Qian had never confessed any love to Baili Qingmiao. The readers had simply misinterpreted his words and intentions. It was a romance novel, after all. So when a good-looking young man appeared who looked after the protagonist and offered to give up his clan position for her, the readers would naturally understand it as love. Just like Wenren-E's love tribulation and previous debt, Zhongli Qian's feelings also had hidden reasons. Baili Qingmiao was pitiful too. She had so many entangled relationships with so many men, yet not a single one truly loved her. Everyone wishes to obtain someone who will be true to them for their entire life, said Wenren to the still unconscious Baili Qingmiao. It seems that one never existed for you. Too bad that she couldn't hear it. Even if you figured everything out, this Venerable won't undo the heart-linking parasites and tracking curse, Wenren said to Zhongli Qian. If you don't want to become infatuated with Wenzhao alongside Baili Qingmiao, then you'd better work with this Venerable. Zhongli Qian wasn't annoyed and even had a hint of relief in his voice. The Zhongli clan won't allow someone who cannot use his eyes and has a heart-linking parasite in him as their heir. Your actions have actually given me a new possibility. The reputation and prestige of the Zhongli clan gives you the ability to surpass Mahayana at body unity stage. Will you not regret giving it up? I can cultivate to Mahayana someday on my own, said Zhongli Qian. I plan on returning to the clan to pass on my responsibilities, then traveling the world with Baili Qingmiao. After a few decades, perhaps I can find my own Dao. Indeed, Wenren-E's actions had opened up a new opportunity for Zhongli Qian, and Zhongli Qian was willing to face it. After you reach Mahayana, this Venerable looks forward to facing you in battle. Qian thanks the sect master for his recognition, said Zhongli Qian. As they spoke, Shu Yanyan had arrived at Ghost Peak, looking annoyed. She landed at Wenren-E's side and said, It stinks here. And Tsong-shoo-eh asked me to bring her back an unowned bone so she can have a memento. I wish I could beat her to death. Too bad she's stronger. Protector Shu, greeted Zhongli Qian. What happened to your eyes? Shu Yanyan asked, her expression filled with concern. Can you not see? Did the Venerable gouge your eyes out? No. Zhongli Qian hadn't finished talking when Shu Yanyan turned to Wenren Venerable, if you're going to take his eyes, why didn't you let the subordinate do it? This subordinate is capable of it. Thinking of how the last thing he'll ever see is my face, it makes me very happy. Baili Qingmiao drifted back to consciousness. The first thing she saw was Miss Shu's face, and the first thing she heard was those words. She nearly fainted again from shock. You're still alive, Miss Shu? Baili Qingmiao said, getting to her feet. Oh, it's you, little fool. Noticing another woman, Shu Yanyan instantly took up the attitude of a demonic sect protector. She said calmly and boldly, You got a problem with me being alive? Are you happy that the two of you got tricked into running around in circles because of me? If you're not, that's good. I love it best when people are unhappy. No, I'm happy, Baili Qingmiao said, a single tear flowing from her exposed eye. I'm really glad you're alive. Even though she had been tricked, her first thought upon learning it was, thank God she didn't really drive someone toward death. She didn't think anything along the lines of how despicable the demonic sects were, taking advantage of righteous cultivators. Shu Yanyan, on the other hand, felt uneasy at Baili Qingmiao's words. She stiffened her expression and said, Being happy is too right. You should thank this protector for exposing Wenzhao's true face to you. Shu Yanyan wiped away Baili Qingmiao's tear with one hand, saying gently, I'll only tell you this once. Take it as repayment for deceiving you. I've seen too many men like Wenzhao. He was fully willing to be with me, but would be happy to turn around and say it was seduction. He goes after anyone who catches his eye, yet constantly tells you that you're the only one in his heart. He put all the responsibility on the woman. Men like that are good for nothing. You deserve better than him, silly girl. Chapter 36. Seclusion. Miss Baili, Zhongli Qian said gently to Baili Qingmiao, no matter what you feel now, I won't obstruct you. Whether it's joy or grief, I'll bear it with you. Zhongli Qian was prepared for the depths of heartbreak, but after a moment, His heart was still calm. He looked questioningly at Baili Qingmiao. "It's strange," Baili Qingmiao said, hand over her heart. "I should be sad, so why don't I feel anything? I've long since had suspicions about Miss Shu, and even decided me and Shuxiong would go on our own ways after that. Just when I saw him injured in the aftermath of the Great Sect War, I forgot about everything else. When Shuxiong married Liu Shujie, I wanted to let go again, but right now, I feel like if I returned to the sect and saw him, I'd fall back into old habits." "That's indeed pretty odd," Yanyan said. She withdrew her hand, the tenderness vanishing from her face as she returned to being the uncaring demonic sect protector. "Did the Venerable have orders for the subordinate?" Yanyan said, looking at Wenren E. "Nothing anymore." Wenren E gave Yanyan a look that said, "You can scram now." He just called over Yanyan in order to let Baili Qingmiao know of Wenzhao's actions. That goal was accomplished, so he didn't need her here. Yanyan, who had dropped everything to rush over. ... Even if she was annoyed, she had to hide it in front of the Lord of Demons. She might as well go look for a bone. "You also want to break free?" Zhongli Qian asked Baili Qingmiao. "Of course, I don't want to become a person I would despise. But how can I make sure I don't make a mistake again?" Baili Qingmiao said, at a loss. She wasn't stupid, just ruled by her emotions. Everyone could understand things logically, but few people could carry it out. "Letting go is difficult, not something you can do overnight," said Zhongli Qian. "I'm willing to help you along the way. In return, I hope Miss Baili will help me find a new direction." No one was forcing Baili Qingmiao to let go immediately. They were all encouraging her, helping her, giving her time. Gradually, she felt less troubled, and was reminded of something. "I was planning to return to the sect after traveling for 10 years, but rethinking it, this was a selfish thought. Young Master Jong-lee, I need to return in order to complete an unfinished task. Would you be willing to accompany me and prevent me from making a mistake again? I also hope Miss Baili can accompany me back to Zhongli Manor. If they see you, the clan elders will be willing to find a new heir," Zhongli Qian said. Baili Qingmiao? ? Why would they be more willing to let go of Zhongli Qian upon seeing her? Wenren E silently watched their exchange, which was friendly without any hint of deeper meanings. He felt like the next minute they would swear brotherhood and sisterhood, but there were no romantic intentions there. But this was still fine. Instead of changing Baili Qingmiao's affections, Wenren E preferred she didn't love anyone, so as to cultivate the path of indifference. The path of indifference was the best way for her to merge with her divine nature. "Oh yeah!" Baili Qingmiao slapped her thigh. "Sir Wenren, where's my master? Is she okay?" Her right eye was filled with hope. Since Senior Wenren's purpose in all of this was to help her overcome temptation, then the disappearance of her master must have also been part of the plan. Certainly nothing bad had happened to her. "She might not necessarily be," Wenren E said casually. Upon just returning, she had picked a fight with Shu Yanyan, and the main hall was only still standing because Wenren E had stopped her. Right now, the Lord of Demons, his deputy, and the Right Protector were all away from the main hall, so there was no one who could keep her in check. Anything could have happened by this point. When I left, she was letting Alter Master Meow's bugs bite her. Shu Yanyan had returned after picking up a bone, and hearing mention of Qingmiao barged into the conversation. "Bugs?" Zhongli Qian said. After hearing Baili Qingmiao's description of Elder Qingshue's actions, he was very curious who this person was before the Great Sect War. The events Baili Qingmiao had related became more concerning the more he thought about them. He really hoped his guess wasn't correct. Shu Yanyan rolled her eyes. She transmitted to everyone except Baili Qingmiao. She used to be a ghost cultivator with no flesh, so she had no reason to fear Alter Master Meow's bugs. Now that she's a wandering immortal, Alter Master Meow threatened that he had a king goo that could even harm wandering immortals, and she didn't believe him and wanted him to try. I was waiting for her to croak. Zhongli Qian, ... He had basically guessed who Elder Qingxue was. The people of Xuanyuan sect really were true to their natures and could make themselves at home in any situation. Knowing Protector Shu, Sect Master Wenren, and now Protector Qiu, Zhongli Qian couldn't help but think that he had restricted himself too much in the past. He had never been able to express his true nature and didn't know what kind of person he would become after letting go of his responsibilities. Everyone in the demonic sect acted according to their desires, each living their own way. Though there was one person who drew Zhongli Qian's attention. He cast his senses toward Yeen Hanjiang. The newly appointed deputy sect leader had his eyes half-lidded, looking at the train of Wenren E's robes. Zhongli Qian couldn't help but transmit to him. Sect leader Yeen, of the 7 human sufferings, birth, old age, illness, and death are certainties, but the last 3, resentment, parting, and desire, can be avoided. Yeen Hanjiang shifted his gaze to Zhongli Qian with difficulty. Even though the young man had his eyes covered, his perceptive gaze seemed to pierce through his blindfold. Sect Master Wenren is an extraordinary person, Zhongli Qian said. He is powerful and decisive in his actions, and few things in the world are able to capture his attention and his heart. A desire too strong might give birth to resentment down the road. Better for Sect Leader Yeen to let go early and not invest your heart, lest it lead to deviation in your future cultivation. Yeen Hanjiang understood this rationally, but just like Baili Qingmiao was fated to be trapped by Wenzhao, he was unable to let go of his admiration toward Wenren E. Of course, he wanted to step away. He had tried, but just ended up sinking deeper. When his Venerable inadvertently showed tenderness and concern for him, it was like a blow to his heart. Baili Qingmiao wanted to let go, but he only wanted to hold on tighter. If there is no desire, there will be no suffering, said Yeen Hanjiang. If there is only love, there will never be resentment. He couldn't hold any expectations for his Venerable to return his feelings, and he wouldn't pursue something that was impossible. He would be happy just staying by his Venerable's side, keeping his tiny wish hidden. Zhongli Qian shook his head. Sect leader Yeen was more stubborn than he had expected. The situation would lead to tragedy if it went on. Since they had said all they wanted to, the 4 returned to the main hall. Zhongli Qian and Baili Qingmiao remained outside its array, with Wenren E assuring her that he would return Elder Qingxue in one piece. Baili Qingmiao sat obediently in the guest room, waiting. Zhongli Qian thought back to what Shu Yanyan had said and felt Wenren E might have some difficulty keeping his promise. Indeed, the moment Wenren E entered the main hall, he saw Tsong-shoo-eh, who had half her body eaten by bugs, stepping on a badly battered Altar Master Meow and laughing. What did this protector say? Even if I have a body, you still can't do anything to me. Wenren E saw that she only had half her face, half her flesh, and half her organs, and thought back to how he told Baili Qingmiao he'd return her in one piece. It turned out Tsong-shoo-eh was willing to use her own life to spite him. Seeing Wenren E's displeasure, Yeen Hanjiang blasted Tsong-shoo-eh away with a swing of his sword. Tsong-shoo-eh had already expended all her energy against Altar Master Meow and was unable to resist. She slammed into the opposite wall, spitting up a mouthful of blood. Wenren E sighed heavily. Holding back his anger, he said, I don't care how you do it, but make yourself presentable to others. You can heal your injuries later. Tsong-shoo-eh didn't dare backtalk and shifted the flesh from the intact parts of her body to her face. She wrapped her black robe tightly around her, making it so her head looked undamaged while blood still dripped from her body underneath. Looking at her current state, Shu Yanyan laughed her ass off. She tossed the bone to Tsong-shoo-eh and said, Here, your bone. Take it back and have fun reminiscing over it. Wenren E flew to the main seat and sat down, with Yeen Hanjiang following close behind, standing next to the throne. Tsong-shoo-eh and Shu Yanyan rushed to take their places as left and right protectors. 4 battered and beaten altar masters also managed to stand with each other's help. Wenren swept his gaze over all of them. After the Great Sect War, this Venerable was occupied with other matters and overlooked Xuanyuan's sect. Each of you also seems to have forgotten your positions, constantly fighting amongst each other. If this continues, the Xuanyuan sect cannot stand. This subordinate was wrong, the six said simultaneously. From today forward, the Xuanyuan sect's array will be closed and no one will be allowed to exit. The 4 altar masters are to return to their own domains and recuperate, so that in 100 years' time, you can return to your power from before the Great Sect War. Understood! Protector Shu, for not knowing her place and trying to steal this venerable's position, has already been assigned a punishment of 100 years. However, this venerable previously agreed to let her cultivate on the burning sky drum before the war. Therefore, during our seclusion, Protector Shu is permitted to cultivate on the burning sky drum for the duration of her punishment. Wenren said, I can cultivate for 100 years? Shu Yanyan said, her eyes lighting up. Venerable! Altar Master Yuan said frantically. If she cultivated on it for 100 years, she could ascend on the spot and probably become a great golden immortal on top of that. This is clearly a reward, not a punishment. The other altar masters and Tsong-shoo-eh also looked dissatisfied. Thus, this venerable has decided Protector Shu's punishment will be shortened by 99 years. That leaves only 1 year. Is everyone satisfied with this? This was the reward he had previously offered Shu Yanyan, but it was in return for something she had done for him, not for Xuanyuan's sect. If he wanted to reduce the punishment, other people still needed to be appeased. After all, altar masters Ren and Shi had been sent to Shu Yanyan's bed. Yes, of course. Everyone nodded their heads in succession. Shu Yanyan also felt it was reasonable. After all, she preferred a good work-life balance and would get tired of cultivating for 100 years straight. Protector Chu will leave and remain undercover in Shangqing's sect, Wenren said. Should the subordinate relay information about Shangqing's sect? Tsong-shoo-eh asked earnestly. That won't be necessary, said Wenren. Just act according to your own judgment. If you put your efforts toward helping Shangqing's sect, that'll be its own form of interference. Tsong-shoo-eh. ... Was the Venerable praising her? She'll just take it as praise. Shu Yanyan covered her mouth. Were it not for how serious this situation was, she would be laughing her head off. Altar Master Shi will be presented with the 100 Ghost flag, which can prevent ghosts of Void Boundary and below from approaching, Wenren said, glancing at Shi Tsong-sheen. Shi Tsong-sheen was so happy he nearly spat up blood. After receiving the flag, he returned contentedly to the Hellfire Pavilion. The other 3 altar masters all earned their own awards. Even the deeply traumatized altar master Ren had received a forgetfulness potion which could erase some memories he didn't like. The Xuanyuan sect had fallen into disorder after the Great Sect War. With both rewards and force, Wenren beat it back into shape, sorting out the place near effortlessly. His subordinates probably wouldn't think of stirring any more trouble for the next few decades. After receiving their orders, each of the altar masters left, Tsong-shoo-eh going with Baili Qingmiao and Zhongli Qian. Xuanyuan's sect sent out word that it would be in seclusion for 30 years, not engaging in the outside world. Wenren and Yeen Hanjiang then each entered seclusion on their own to work on their new techniques or new weapons, respectively. Wenren cultivation grounds consisted of an indoors and outdoor space. The room was very big, enough to comfortably hold Shu Yanyan's 100-meter-long frost jade bed. That was because if Wenren released his power in a smaller room, it would probably need to be rebuilt every day. Both the inside and outside spaces were surrounded by arrays. He and Yeen Hanjiang could cultivate alongside each other without interfering with each other. After he was finally alone, Wenren placed a hand on his left arm. The illusion he'd made out of blood mist vanished. Everyone, including Yeen Hanjiang, thought that the arm Wenren used to forge the army-crushing sword was quickly restored. Only Wenren knew that this arm was a fake created out of spiritual essence, which he couldn't use for anything. Over the past few days, he'd taken many elixirs for restoring the body and soul, all to no use. Blood had to be restored with blood, and soul with soul. What he needed was not legendary treasures or spiritual medicines, but the blood and soul of a cultivator. No wonder the blood demon elder had become the target of the entire cultivation world 10,000 years ago, and people saw blood cultivators as destined to become demons. Only after becoming a blood cultivator did Wenren E realize that his body no longer had meridians or a dantian and could no longer cultivate by his previous methods. The only thing he could do to advance or restore his body was devouring other souls. His power had no bottlenecks, and, being above Mahayana, he no longer needed to face heavenly tribulations. Just by absorbing souls, he could become strong enough to fight the immortals of the upper realms. But if he kept increasing his power without strengthening his mind, then sooner or later he would be enslaved by it and become a heartless monster who only knew to consume. Blood cultivators were destined to become demons. There was no return after going down this route. Wenren E clamped a hand on his arm, blood chi rolling within his body. He didn't care about the lives of other cultivators and had killed several experts of the righteous sects during the war. He was willing to kill, but he would not absorb anyone's soul. Some people might think that there was nothing wrong with taking the soul of an enemy. They could eliminate opposition and increase their power at the same time. But this was a slippery slope, and human desire was a bottomless abyss which would never be satisfied. Someday, he would have no more compunctions about devouring human souls. At that point, he would turn on the people most important to him. Okay, there's a quick footnote here I'm not certain about, but the person translating said, okay, there's no plural conjugation in Chinese, but there's only one person, but I don't think he's realized that yet. He's just speaking generally. So if it's talking about the word people, zhen is for person, but it can also be for people. I think you can say zhen men. 1 second. Okay, yes, you can. But generally speaking, zhen can be people or person. So the conjecture here is that he's only talking about one person. Anyway, returning to the reading. He would never go down that path, even if he could never advance, and would waste away and die eventually. He had closed the gates of Xuanyuan sect for 30 years in order to figure something out in that time. Even if he didn't find a solution for 30 years, Yeen Hanjiang was sure to make significant advances and would be able to help him manage Xuanyuan sect. He at least had to be strong enough that if the day came when Wenren E was desperate enough to enter the blood hell, Yeen Hanjiang would be able to follow him. Wenren E put up another array inside and took out his 2 books. He needed to use them to keep an eye on outside happenings from time to time. He couldn't be completely ignorant for 30 years. All right, everyone, that concludes the readings of chapters 33 through 36. And I think we have 4 chapters left? Anyway, let me go ahead and go over my notes, but I'm actually going to just start from the end since I didn't write anything and we just read it. So concerning Wenren E becoming a blood cultivator, it was nice to get more information on how that cultivation works and understanding why usually blood cultivators ended up turning, monstrous, because they have to consume blood and consume souls. So to know that he doesn't want to do that, just come give me a kiss, hun. Sorry, my husband's leaving for work. So to know that he doesn't want to turn down that path, again, it just goes to show that even though he's a demonic cultivator or the leader of the demonic sect, he's not actually a bad person at all, which again, we all know, again, when we're talking about cultivation, there's the righteous sects and the demonic sects. Demonic sects aren't necessarily literally demon people, but they're just practicing things that other people decided are wrong. It's basically a lot of times what it is. So yeah, you can be a demonic cultivator and be a good person. And overall, he is a good person and he cares about the well-being of certain people. And then just like the entire world in general and how it operates and works and wants to keep everything on a level plane. So to hear just about the blood cultivation and stuff, that was quite interesting. Anyway, I'm hoping that he'll be able to find some kind of solution within the 30 years of seclusion, because we don't want anything to happen to Wenren E, right? No, we don't. Of course not. So now I will start at the beginning of my notes since we have passed that. Going back to chapter 33, for, I think that was titled A Deviation from the Plan. Yes. The first thing I want to comment on is, of course, Baili Qingmiao, because when ending up at the sect and being imprisoned and everything, and the Zhongli Qian, told her that, he was brought here to this sect. She was brought here to this sect as well. She was like, oh my gosh, something must have happened to Wenren E, because there's no way he could be doing anything bad. I just thought it was so funny how she trusts him so much just because of the few acts of kindness that he's done for her. And technically speaking, I mean, he's not doing anything bad, but at the same time, I mean, kind of like you did imprison them and are forcing things onto them without their consent. But I guess he's still not doing anything like awfully terrible. And he has good intentions. That's the crazy part. So anyway, I just think it's hilarious that she's so trusting of him, because it's so misguided, but also not. Next, I want to go to talking about Yeen Hanjiang's mask. So it's interesting to see that outside of abusive romance, it has found its way into reality in Devil Venerable Wants to Know, and that he's making use of it. But of course, later on, it ended up getting revealed who he is anyway. So I guess that role was kind of short-lived. But it would have been short-lived anyway, because at least for sure, Wenren E did not want him to use the mask when they were alone, and absolutely do not use it if it's not necessary. So the other thing is, speaking of Wenren E in regards to the mask, I thought it was interesting that he was trying to understand the mask and see if there was anything about it that was possibly skewing Yeen Hanjiang's emotions or mind, only to find nothing, essentially. I thought that was pretty cool, just because, again, it shows that he cares about Yeen Hanjiang. Maybe not in a romantic way yet. This is a slow burn, which I love slow burns when they are done well. Not just a slow burn just to be a slow burn, but, providing that depth and meaning and stuff like that. So anyway, seeing that he cares about Yeen Hanjiang's well-being, and it's like, hold on. Let me see this mask, because I need to see if something's going on with this, because if so, I'm probably finna destroy this thing so that you can stay in your right mind. So I loved that so much. Then going to my next point, because of him trying to accomplish the 3 things, but knowing that he can only do the 2. Wenren E, being able to spot a person in a crowd, even amongst everyone else, does not mean that you are in love with that person. And so when it comes to him putting the drops of blood in their eyes, or rather Zhongli Qian's eyes, and only one of Baili Qingmiao's eyes, you're making them only be able to see each other, although Baili Qingmiao has some freedom. But that doesn't mean that they're going to love each other. That is something that has been forced upon them to make. It's almost like another way of being blind, especially for Zhongli Qian, because when his eyes are uncovered, the only thing he sees is her, whereas she had one eye that could still be aware somewhat of her surroundings. But then for him, yeah, literally blind to only see her, but then having to cover up his face, his eyes, so that it doesn't hurt. Well, then you're blind for real. And so it's just crazy, because like it really, I mean, it is a curse anyway, but it really feels like one rather than a feeling of love. Although I suppose someone might say that being in love is a curse, But anyway, and then the whole sharing emotions thing, it's just funny that he thought that this was supposed to help them fall in love with each other, because people can share plenty of emotions, but that does not mean you're going to fall in love. In fact, sharing emotions usually is something that creates a friendly or platonic bond rather than a romantic bond, because you're having that kinship with someone who's sharing your trauma, sharing your joy, sharing your sadness, which, don't get me wrong, that happens in romantic relationships. But at the same time, usually in romantic relationships, you should marry your friend. You should be in a relationship, a romantic relationship with a friend. So you guys are definitely going to share things, but you're not necessarily, like the exact same person. There are things about the person that, draw you to them that are different. And so that whole sharing emotions thing is just kind of like, it doesn't necessarily always lead to romantic feelings. So he was just kind of missing on that. Not to mention, Zhongli Qian is, very aware of himself and just aware, period. So, you force this stuff onto them. They're aware of what you're doing, even if Baili Qingmiao didn't understand why the things were being done. So I feel like, subconsciously speaking, that would also help them to not fall for like whatever the plot is or whatever the goal is. So anyway, moving on to the next point. I had said this as I was reading in chapter 34, that I felt like Baili Qingmiao really does actually want to let her Wenzhao go. And so it was nice later for her to finally basically, confirm that she doesn't want to love her Wenzhao. So we do understand for sure now, if anyone didn't, that she basically is, quote unquote, cursed to have these feelings for him. And every time she sees him, everything just goes out the drain. And she kind of needs an out of sight, out of mind situation. He may still be on her mind when he's out of sight, but eventually, that would diminish. And so I do think, that distance just needs to happen. And it's really sucky. I'll say, I feel pity for her. Having to love someone that she knows it just isn't going to treat her right, isn't good for her, but not being able to get away from that pool, man, fate is cruel. Also, it was very sad, when Wenren E was just mentioning that all the people that, quote unquote, fell in love with her in abusive romance actually had not. Not really. And so, yeah, she's searching for love specifically from her Wenzhao, but also, even if she wasn't consciously going with all these men during certain things to get their love, probably there was a part of her that was searching for that love that would accept her as well, but that's just something that didn't happen, I guess. Not for real. Not in Devil Venerable Wants to Know. So, last two things. I think it was really cool that they were talking about all this before she was knocked unconscious. They were talking about the whole, plot of what Wenren E was trying to accomplish without making her feel awkward. And that was something that was specifically mentioned. And so I appreciated that. Just again, another kudo for Wenren E, but also Zhongli Qian, who is very, very smart. Yay, Zhongli. And then finally, the last thing I want to say is, I was glad that Yanyan finally just told her like it is. Instead of the whole, let me kill myself thing and then get buried plot that she did before. It was nice that she went ahead and was like, girl, that man was willing to be with me. And yeah, he'll lie to you and tell you, oh no, I was tricked, or I was seduced, or they used this spell on me. But no, he's willing. And you deserve much better. I was like, okay, Shu, you good for you telling her that. So anyway, that's pretty much it. All I want to say, I guess, because Yanyan definitely could have taken the route of like I mean, she didn't like Wenzhao anyway, but she definitely could have taken the route of just calling Baili Qingmiao stupid and helpless and being so, persnickety about it. Or she could have, bragged about getting a great lay with Wenzhao, but instead she really took the approach of telling it like it is and then letting Baili Qingmiao know that you deserve better. So I've garnered a little bit more respect for Xu Yanyan on that front, short-lived as her kindness or whatever you want to call it may be. So anyway, that is all I have to say for this. I will honestly, because there are only 4 chapters left, I'm not going to take a break tomorrow because it just feels weird. You guys will be waiting a day for 4 chapters before we take a short break and then start reading Peerless. So I'm going to go ahead and read the final chapters of the first novel today and post them tomorrow. And then more than likely, then I'll take a day break. We'll see. And maybe Thursday, Friday, we'll go ahead and start reading Peerless. Or I might just take the rest of the week off and still take the time to catch up on my reading of it again, just to get myself back into that frame of mind. And then we start on Monday. We'll just see. Because my original plan was to start on Monday anyway. I just ended up getting through this first novel a little bit faster than I thought I would. So there's that. Is there anything else I have to say? No, I don't think there is. No, there isn't. I do know, actually, I will say this. A lot of people during the live session, but even afterward in the comments, expressed, wanting me to maybe go live again. And there are actually several topics that you guys want me to go live about. It's not something I plan on doing often, but I just wanted to let you guys know that you are always more than welcome to put in the comments specific things you would like me to go live about. And if I feel like I have enough content to do that, or if it'll, be, I'm sorry, not also just going live, but just making other videos, period, uploading different types of videos. I definitely don't mind doing that as well. You all can just put them in the comments. I'll keep adding them to my list and check the things off as I go. Otherwise, you all have a wonderful day or night, and 我爱你们